Well, hi there, everyone, and good evening, tennis fans. I'm Chris McEnroe, a host of ESPN's Grand Slam Tennis, but tonight it's Young Talent Team. We Are Tennis presented by BNP Paribas. And I'm joined by one of my ESPN colleagues, Patrick McEnroe. However, tonight I get to watch Coach McEnroe. His capacity as both co-director of the John McEnroe Tennis Academy and president of the board of the Johnny Mac Tennis Project, which PMD Paribas has partnered with to provide scholarships to a team of elite players requiring any sort of assistance with their training. And three of those players join us tonight. Hello, Olivia Benton. She's
Hi.
13. Hi, Evan Wen is 16 from New Jersey, and Joseph Oyubag, just 12 years of age, already an elite player. He joins us as well. Let me start with the
Hello.
three of you. Olivia, you go first. How has lockdown and quarantine been for you?
Actually in the beginning, it's really been unsettling, not knowing how long it would be till I get back. But, what really helped me were the JMTA webinars that helped keep me active. I've also made a schedule for myself every day as to what I'm going to do every day, like fitness-wise. So I would do conditioning one day, then strengthening the next. I would work on core. So I just made like a calendar for myself so that I know what I'm doing every day to help me keep me active.
That's fantastic discipline. And Evan, how about you? Of the three, Evan, you have started traveling internationally for ITF tournaments, and then suddenly all the tournaments are gone. How did you stay with your conditioning?
Well, in the beginning, just like Olivia, I think everybody was a little bit shocked by what happened, and we're in an area where we got hit so hard by Corona, where everything got shut down and no courts were open. So in the beginning, I was hitting, and then it got to the point where everything completely shut down, and I took about 3 weeks off just trying to do fitness. Like I would go for runs, and then I would get on like FaceTime calls with our trainer, and then do some strength work. And luckily, he had me get weights before everything got sold out. So everything kind of worked out, and I mean we're all in the same boat here. So everybody's just got to do their best to train however they can. Improve.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. Yeah, you make a good point, Evan. I should have mentioned all of you are New York or North Jersey based. I always assume everybody knows that with the McEnroe brothers, that they are the kings there of New York tennis, but we're all right here in this metro area of New York. Joseph, what has it been like for you?
Oh well, in my experience, so it's like been really tough because I was new to GMTA and like really liking and getting into the moment. But when they shut down everything, I was a bit shocked and surprised because it was like tennis was the only thing that made me like I just not like I was like I just felt like I was all alone in the world. I knew everything I had to do, and it just made me feel connected. And then when Corona came, I just like, okay, it's not a big deal. We just gotta work through this. We're gonna open GMT in a couple more weeks, and then it took longer. And I was like, you know what? I'll just let's just go with it, see how it goes, and just roll with it. And then that's how I get. I'm here. I use tennis courts behind my house and do fitness online. Yeah.
Joseph, I like that. It sounds like you found your people there at the Johnny Mac Academy. You found your group, your team, and it's so important. It's such an individual sport. I think when you can find a team and find people that can lift you up and challenge you and connect with you. So, Coach McEnroe, tell me more about Mac One Team.
Well, first of all, Chris, let me say thank you to you for agreeing to do this. And you are a true pro. It's a pleasure to work with you all around the world that I've been able to do for the last number of years covering tennis. Yeah. We hope we'll be back together soon. It sounds like we will at the U.S. Open. But these three kids, we've got 8 kids on Team BNP Mac 1. They've been amazing support for us at the Johnny Mac Tennis Academy, the Johnny Mac Tennis Project, which helps kids that normally wouldn't get the opportunity to be able to play tennis. So BNP is helping us sort of take our game to another level. You're seeing 3 kids here that are, number one, just great kids, great backgrounds, very excellent behavior. They work hard, they try hard, and that to us is obviously number one. They have talent to play tennis. That's awesome too. But we really think that we're trying to help them become better people as well. Tennis teaches you a lot of life skills about success, about failure, about hard work, about dealing with losses, which all of us do in the tennis world. And at this time, when this happened, BNP has supported us. Our team at JMTA has really worked really hard. You heard Olivia talk about our webinars, so we've been doing them Monday through Friday during the week, where some of them are just about fitness, some of them are myself and my co-director Lawrence, who's Olivia's coach, talk about the different things that the kids can do while they're not able to hit that many tennis balls. So some of it's visualization, some of it's thinking about, okay, what are the things I'd like to do in my game? Some of it is going out and doing different exercises. My brother loves to talk about doing other sports and doing other activities. And sometimes we think, well, maybe our kids play a little too much tennis at a young age. So this has certainly been an opportunity to do some other things, to try some other things, keep up your tennis skills, and also work on maybe the biggest part of the game, what goes on up here, the mental side of the game. So we've really tried to give the kids lots of different things to utilize on their own, and also learn they can be very self-sufficient. And that's a very important thing for a young person to learn, but particularly a young tennis player.
No, I agree with everything you said. And first of all, I was pleased that you asked me to do this. As Patrick knows, and for the three of you, I started playing tennis in the playgrounds in Philadelphia, part of the National Junior Tennis League, a million years ago, and also worked at a Arthur Ashe Tennis Center. That's where I was able to play indoor tennis in Philadelphia. So these opportunities, I'm so glad to hear the three of you are treasuring them. Patrick talked about everything you need to do on the court, off the court, and up here. But I also liked what Evan said, that you got some time to rest. You took some time off. And Patrick, that's an important part of the game while their bodies are still growing, is it not?
Oh, definitely. And, trying some other things, maybe it's do extra stretching, or, we send them videos about doing footwork drills and getting out, hitting against the wall, control drills where you work on your balance, one-legged squats. It's amazing. Evan said we got some weights. That was great. But it's amazing the things you realize you can do with no equipment. Because we're very spoiled, all of us. We have these great gyms and we have great trainers and great equipment, but there's a lot of things that you can do just by yourself, whether it's sit-ups, push-ups. Tennis is so much about balance and coordination. So I was lucky enough as a kid to play a lot of other sports, to play baseball, to play basketball, to play soccer. And it's a great opportunity now for our kids to try some other things. Because, and you also rest your body from the repetitive nature of tennis, a lot of serving, a lot of swinging. So if you can do some other things now at this time, I think that really helps him. But we sure miss hitting that tennis ball. Okay, so it's nice that the weather has improved and some of the courts have opened, not in New York City, but in the surrounding areas, so that all these kids can get out and hit a few more tennis balls and get back to competition. It's also nice to take a break from competition sometimes. Because sometimes when you're competing, you want to win. That's number one. But you also, as a young player, you need to improve your game. So if you have a little break from the competition, I know Evan's used this opportunity to work on a couple specific things in his game that he wants to improve. And you can do that a little bit more without the pressure of a tournament coming up in a week or two.
I want to talk about some of the specific exercises you've been doing and how creative people might have been getting, and might sound silly, but I want to know these stories. But before we just talk tennis, there is something that three of you are taking care of, and that's your schoolwork, right? I mean, two of you, Olivia and Evan, are already online, so you probably had a really nice program you just continued with.
Yeah.
And then, Joseph, you had to learn about online schooling in a hurry. Did it work out for everybody?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so for me, not much has really changed. I kept my same schedule. I would wake up and do 4 hours of work, then get my day started, like play tennis, but nothing really changed.
I love that. 4 hours of work and then I'll get my day started.
Yeah.
Right.
That is fantastic. So, what's the most creative thing you did to keep your feet moving and keep your body active?
Well, my mom and I, we set up a basketball court in like the backyard, so we've been playing basketball. We've been throwing football. We've been playing ping pong. There's a lot we've been doing to keep active,
I
which is
like
good.
it.
So, yeah.
And her mom can play too. Her mom comes out and plays in our adult session sometimes when Olivia's done practicing at 8 p.m. Oh, Monica can hit that ball. She's an athlete.
Oh, that's helpful to have somebody in the house that
Yeah.
you can, once you can get back out on a court, be hitting with. And basketball. And I love throwing a football. We've seen Serena Williams throw a football a lot, Patrick, right? It's very similar to warming up that service motion.
I think that's helped her serve a little bit, don't you think, Joseph?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What have you been doing, Joseph? I mean, how's it been adjusting to the school and stuff? Joseph's got big legs. You know why he likes Nadal? Because he's lefty too. He's got some serious
Oh,
action on that ball. So how's the school been going, Joseph, since you had to go online?
Yeah, so like because of school, so we have to like me and my sister have to wake up early. So basically the whole crew, we wake up early, do some. So we have a stair of case. So we basically just like go up and down like 150, do as much as we can in a short period of time, rest, and then after that we come, we take a shower, do whatever we got to do, just stay on the table for like 3-4 hours and go school. Then we go out. There's tennis court out back, so we go warm up some serves because we don't want to get so rusty when we get back. So yeah.
that's a
Running the
good point,
stairs in the
Patrick, isn't
house.
it?
I like that. Yeah, I like running the stairs in the house. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Evan? What have you been doing?
I mean, when it comes to school, it was actually kind of nice that this happened because I was a little bit behind before, and although like it's not good that I had to stop training, like I definitely did get caught up, and
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't really have to work my school around my schedule of playing,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, I don't know how creative I got, but I remember in the beginning of this thing, Fed started that volley challenge, and then for about a week, I probably spent 30 to 45 minutes a day just trying to work on it. Can't say I got it, but I mean, I was really trying to work on my volleys there.
Yeah.
But it's a lot harder than it looks.
Did you wear the
Yeah.
hat? It is. Did you wear the fedora
Yeah.
when you were doing it, like he did?
I
Wear the
did
hat?
not, but I don't know if I have a fedora, but I was working on those volleys, but it's definitely a lot tougher than it looks with my now play tennis.
Yes, that is something I think we can say. Roger Federer makes tennis look very easy
Yeah.
I can
until
agree
you
with
get out
that.
there and try to do it. He's fantastic. Patrick, what do you advise for kids to do? There's going to be a lot of, what should we call them? Quarantine warriors, right? Corona warriors. As soon as everything's up and you can get back to playing, people are going to be jumping in. And frankly, this goes for young and old, right? We're all dying to be able to get back to our usual activities. How do you make sure the kids don't get injured by going too hard too quickly?
No, that's a great point. I mean, I think initially, when you get back, you want to maybe not get into competition that quickly because that always gets your adrenaline going. So it's a good idea. Luckily, the three of them have been able to, as they've said, hit a little bit, hit against the wall. The weather, courts are opening in a lot of this area, except for right in New York City. So we're hopeful, we're optimistic that we're going to be able to reopen at our flagship location at Randall's Island. Hopefully next week. So we will definitely spend a lot of time, though, Chris, doing some drills and working the kids, not having them play too much right away. They'll be eager and they'll want to play a lot, but we'll try to have to manage them a little bit. Do a lot of cross courts, a lot of ball drills, where they just kind of get their feel back and not stress themselves too much. I think doing a little bit of fitness, continuing to do what they've been doing, whether it's basketball, soccer, the other games. That's awesome that they've been doing that, and I think they should keep doing that myself. So we'll be smart. We'll manage that well. The kids will obviously, I think, have to give us a lot of feedback, and it's important for them to speak up and say how they feel and where they feel they're at. because I always say, kids know a lot more than you think. So you need to talk to them, you need to ask them their opinion, and I think more often than not, you'll hear the straight truth from them.
All right, so you three, let's have a little conversation out of school, so to speak. Tell me about Patrick as a coach. What kind of coach is Patrick? Evan, why don't you lead us off?
So I was actually enough to work with Patrick for 5 months. I'm at McEnroe, and he's super supportive, and he's always just watching, seeing what I'm doing. He doesn't talk a lot when I'm playing points, but afterwards he gives me a well reflected overview of how I played, and he's very just observative of what I'm doing, as opposed to other coaches who are maybe making comments on every other point. He'll wait until the end and see how I make changes on my own before he says something, which is very good for my own game because I struggle with problem solving sometimes, and that's helped a lot, especially when it comes to playing points.
Yeah, that's so important. I know Patrick talks about it. Mary Jo Fernandez, another one of our analysts, Darren Cahill and Brad Gilbert, how important it is you learn how to problem solve out there. We see it, don't we, Patrick, even in the pro ranks, how many players, will look over to their coach or their team seemingly after every point, and it starts to make everybody a little crazy. So problem solving is so important. Joseph, what's been the academy, what has it meant to you? You said you were brand new there, but instantly you sort of found your group and you were really happy. What was different about the academy than other experiences you've had?
So basically, they take a lot of time in making you a better person mentally, physically, and on the court and off the court. And the one thing I like about is the support. They're really supportive, and even in good and bad days, they tell you it's okay, it's fine. They know what you have to work on. They analyze everything. It's just perfect.
It's just perfect. And Olivia,
Perfect,
why don't you tell me about perfect? You'll take that, Coach.
I don't know about that, but right.
Olivia, tell me about the team. Being a part of a team in an individual sport's unusual, but it can be so helpful.
Yeah, when you have a team member or someone there to pick you up when you're not doing well, that's really good. It's good to have the support, because sometimes you need extra support. In JMTA, all the coaches there, they're very supportive. Great feedback, and it helps you improve your game, which is good.
Patrick, what do you think a team environment brings out in these players?
Well, tennis is as we all know, is an individual sport. It's a difficult sport because of some of the things I mentioned earlier. You miss a lot of shots and you lose a lot of matches, even when you're a great player, even if you make it to the pros. So tennis is tough, and the fact that we have this young team of individuals that BNP is supporting, and the fact that we have a whole academy of kids, all different backgrounds, all different levels, as well. So we have our top players, but we also have kids that come twice a week and, just want to play for fun or play on their high school team. So it really creates, I call it a home away from home for many of our kids and their families, and for me as well, because we really do, as Joseph said, try to support each other. Most of our coaches, were high-level players themselves, whether in college, some of them, ventured into the pros a little bit. So we all understand the ups and downs of being a tennis player, and it's a long road. So you're going to have some good days. You're going to have some days where you feel great. You're going to have some days where things don't go your way. And that's just life. That's part of life. Now, Joseph and I have a little inside joke, Chris. He's going to be a little embarrassed when I say this, but I like to call him Coach.
Oh.
I call Joseph Coach, and he doesn't. He's like, oh no, don't say that. And he's like, I'm not a coach. And I said, listen, you got to start, think like a coach. And I like what Evan said. He's throwing me some props, but I want to say I like the fact that these kids are trying to learn on their own. So we're trying to give them the tools. We're trying to give them some skills. Obviously, some good coaching along the way. But at the end of the day, they have to think for themselves, and they have to figure it out for themselves when they're out there on the tennis court. So Joseph, sometimes he's going to coach me on how to be a better coach. So he knows that.
I like that. And let me remind everybody, Joseph is 12. He's 12.
That's right.
But that is fantastic. Yeah, you speak your mind. Tell Coach Patrick what you see and what he should be doing. Patrick, when the kids were talking about, and what Evan said, he went out and tried to do the Fed challenge. And of course, it's hitting against a wall. Even our ESPN colleague, a former top 5 player, and Brad Gilbert, that early in quarantine, he kept finding a wall out there in California and going against the wall. Whether you're just beginning the game, and maybe some will start turning to tennis during this time, and team sports are going to be trickier to get up and running than individual sports like tennis, how helpful can just, it sounds so simple, just hitting against a wall be for anybody's game?
Well, hitting against a wall is, how I grew up playing tennis, and how actually many pro players, Martina Navratilova talks about it, Bjorn Borg. I mean, tennis overhead. But you know what I love the most about the wall? Of course, the repetitions, the being on your own. I think is an important thing because you can work through things in your own head. But guess what? The wall doesn't do. The wall doesn't
It never
talk.
misses.
Yeah, it
Never
misses.
misses.
That's right. The wall doesn't miss, but also the wall doesn't talk. So as I've started coaching more in the last 4 years at the academy, I actually like to go to the wall myself that I do, and I kind of figure out, like, well, how did I do this with my backhand slice, or how did I learn how to? And I realized I learned a lot of these things by trial and error, doing it against the wall when I was a kid. So I think it's a great lesson for the kids because, again, they can sort of figure things out themselves in a non-pressure situation, a situation where they're on their own for the most part, and they just kind of try different things. And I think that's the beauty of having – I saw Olivia doing some like ping pong. She was doing volleys against the wall early in quarantine. I used a ping pong table to actually practice my volley. At one point, I put that out on Instagram or Twitter or whatever it was. And as Evan said, it's not that easy to do. So it's a great skill to practice and try to learn. Olivia, you did a lot. Olivia's unbelievable in ping pong, by the way, but you also used a tennis ball too, didn't you?
Yes, that was harder actually, because
Yes,
the
it
ping pong
is.
paddle is smaller, so you have to really hit the part of the ball that you want to get the ball over the
Right.
net.
And do you think you
Just
can
help me.
learn like how to maybe play with a little more slice or maybe more topspin or by using
Yeah,
the repetition of the wall?
right. Yes, you can like adjust angle faces of the racket. You could try so many different things.
Very interesting. And you take your ping pong table, I guess, and you fold it up in half, right?
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That goes on around this house quite often too. So Olivia, Patrick, you said she's very good ping pong, very good at tennis. Sounds like she must have very good hands.
I do. I'm really good at volleys as well.
Yeah, she likes to come to the net. She's got a good reach. She's long, and she uses it very well. And a big serve. And now that her second serve is becoming a little more consistent, which I'm going to be very interested to see when I see her back playing, how that second serve is looking because she's got a big first serve. Early on, her second serve was a little unpredictable, maybe, but now it's getting more solid, right, Olivia?
Right.
That's
Well,
what I
that's
like to hear.
okay.
Yeah.
You're quite young. You're 13. So I keep reminding everyone, let's keep these ages in mind. 13 to still have a little bit of an inconsistency in your second serve. I think you're still pretty far ahead of the game.
Thank
I
you.
would say so. Evan, tell me more about your game.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had those hands. I mean, sometimes I try to hit drop shot, it goes past the service line. I'm like, oh boy, I don't know about that one. But I mean, overall, I like playing big. I've been working a lot on my forehand and my serve over the break because serving you can do on your own, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are the two biggest parts of my game, and I need them to be big. So. Also, I mean, over the break, it's been good because you have time to reflect on your game, right? Because what happened to me, I hit with friends that I hadn't hit with in a while, and they gave me a little feedback on what they saw in my game. They were like, "Oh, like maybe sometimes you're hitting a little bit too big and you're missing long, or maybe go bigger targets." And then few tips from peers actually go a long way, because it's not the same thing you're hearing from your coach all the time, and also there are people who are playing you, and they know and they see what you're doing, right?
Sure. So they're the people who are finding the holes in your game when they're playing you, right? And knowing what to pick on and what to go after. So,
Mm-hmm.
Patrick, I'm curious about when you form a team like this, the BNP Mac 1 team. I'm sitting here, you had time to coach Evan for several years. He's been a part of the team, one of the successful kids playing ITF now, traveling the world. What's it like when a player has to graduate from your team? He's a rising junior in high school now at 16, so he can't stay in the nest forever.
Don't even start. I can't even imagine what would happen when these kids leave. Evan just started recently, so we hasn't been at the academy for that long. In fact, we just started BNP Paribas in the
Oh,
last
okay.
year. Yeah, so he hasn't been there that long. We have another coach that works with him a lot too, and I like that aspect of the academy because obviously, with all my responsibilities, it's hard for me to coach, one player all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been a believer that the team aspect is even a great way to go for young kids, because I think it's good to get sort of different ideas and different thoughts from different people. Because as I said, at the end of the day, the player has to know their game and they have to know what they do. So we can help along the way. Obviously, they trust us. We're out for their best interests. We want to see them be as good as they can be in tennis, but even more importantly in life. And that's really been a big thing with us and our relationship with BNP, is to have really good kids that really try hard. Of course, they're excellent tennis players, but we want them to represent BNP, JMTA, obviously our academy well. And I can say that they all do. And that's something that I'm very proud of, that they do that. They hold themselves with very high, and they work hard, they try hard, they compete hard. But at the end of the day, win or lose, they have great sportsmanship. So it'll be hard, as this develops over time. It's a great question, Chris, to watch some of these kids go. But at the same time, I believe that we're going to do everything we can to help them, to give them some of the resources that maybe they normally wouldn't be able to get, and to put them on their way to do great things in life.
I think it's fantastic. Everybody deserves the opportunities, especially when you have the talent, the discipline, all of them getting up early in the morning during quarantine. I think the majority of teenagers slept until about noon. But maybe I'm just speaking from experience. Patrick, what's been the impact the team has had on all of the kids? I mean, you talk about the range of talent that's at the academy, but now you've also given a lot of the younger players and maybe the players a little carrot to shoot for, to be a part of an elite team.
Well, definitely. I mean, as I said, all our kids train together, whether they're on BNP Mac 1 or not. And so we have, again, kids, different ages, different backgrounds. But you're right. I mean, giving them, and again, being a member of Mac 1 BNP is a responsibility as well. So it's not, as I said, just about the tennis. So we expect a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these kids. They're delivering, but it is something that, we want the kids to strive for, and we think that's a great thing to have, because they push each other, and they're role models. I know it's hard to say you're a role model at 12 or 13, but we have kids that are 8, 9, and 10 at our academy that are darn good little players, and they look up to Joseph and they look up to Olivia, just like they look up to the players that are a little bit older. Evan's basically one of our oldest kids, at 16 at the academy. So to see that happen, whether they're on BNP Mac 1 or just a kid at the academy, to see that, the way the kids look up to each other, and also the older kids know their responsibility. I mean, that's what makes the academy awesome. And that also brings that team part to tennis that we lack a little bit, because we're going out playing tournaments on our own, and that's not easy to do that. So we try to bring a little bit of that camaraderie and a little of that team ideal to the academy so that the kids have something other than just competing on their own.
Yes, I know the great Billie Jean King, as Patrick knows too. That's been something she's been trying to do for decades now, is get team tennis as popular as the individual. Everybody go to the tournament on your own at 8 and under 10, and she said make it more of a team environment, and the camaraderie
And by
certainly
the
can
way,
help.
Chris, Billie Jean was nice enough to do one of our webinars with the kids and talk about how she got into tennis and her, because I really wanted to ask her about what she did as a kid, and so her story of her brother was a baseball player and she just loved got into tennis and she liked other sports too. So inspiring, and it was we've had some of the pros come on: Milos Raonic, Caroline Wozniacki, Cece Bellis. So we've been really lucky to be able to get some of these players to come on and tell stories and answer questions from some of our kids.
Oh, that's exciting. Have the three of you participated in those? Do you get online and listen to the players?
Yes.
You Joseph, what's something that you remember from listening to these players? What's one
Well,
thing that stuck with you?
something the one thing I really liked about it, it's like they're like they're like really, how pros are, like really grounded to earth, and like they don't like sell themselves high and stuff, and they're like
Hmm.
they're just like they give me hope.
That's a beautiful thing to say. It is true. I mean, at the end of the day, they're still out there working on their game. And like Patrick said, the best tennis players in the world still lose more than they win. I mean, something about that keeps you grounded, and I think a lot of pros look at players like the three of you, and it probably feels like it was just yesterday that they were in your position, trying to come through an academy, move up to play the ITF and start traveling internationally like Evan is doing. So it's not that long ago. I think they remember it well. Evan, what's something you recall from listening to one of the players?
I actually haven't attended one with a pro celebrity, but I have attended a few where Patrick and Lawrence, the co-director, were talking about certain aspects of the game and how we can improve during this time period.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember they were talking a lot about shadowing and how shadowing can help your game. So sometimes I actually go out in the parking lot and I take a few shadow swings, just because I'm feeling a little bit tennis grooving, I just want to take a few swings. But
For people, go ahead.
no. I mean, I actually had one thing to add to what Patrick was saying about the academy, because I actually leave the house at 6 a.m. On a regular basis, and I go to the academy and I spend the whole day there until about 4. So if it's great that we have this like family vibe there, because the coaches are also friendly, and I've actually gotten close with a number of the coaches there now, who I've spent a lot of time with and I've traveled with, and they're almost like family to me. And I have a few peers that are competing at the same level as me, and it's really great. And we've all developed a bond because I mean I've known these peers from tournaments in the past, and I was never so close, but I spent time with them. I got to know them, and then now we're extremely close friends, and we talk almost on a daily basis.
That's great. That's everything you want, Patrick.
That's nice. Sometimes Evan texts a little too much. Okay, we don't want to get him in trouble on the home front. But I'm very glad. Here's what I'm very glad about: that Evan has used this time to get on top of his school, because he takes some serious classes. He's been a great student, but since he went to online, that's a different kind of thing to manage. So that wasn't an easy transition for him. So I'm very happy that over this time he's taken the opportunity to get that under control. And by the way, a couple of weeks ago, I was lucky enough to see him serve for the first time since for a couple of months, and the serve was looking darn good. So what you were doing was working. I give Coach Brian lots of credit, who's been working with him as well. And I'm very happy. And I can't wait to see Joseph and that serve of his. And I can't wait to see Olivia just pounding those groundies and coming to the net. Can't wait.
Did the three of you, Olivia, why don't you start off this question? Did you miss tennis more than you thought you might have?
Definitely. This is the longest break I've had in like a while, so I was trying everything I could to, stay mentally there, shadowing, visualizing. I would go to the wall and hit. I would practice volleys with my mom. So I was just doing anything to simulate as if I was on a court, except without the net. Just a lot of visualization and shadowing to still keep me mentally and physically there.
Patrick, if people are watching, other coaches or maybe parents saying shadowing, what are they talking about, and how long should this activity last? Help explain that.
Well, shadowing is just taking practice swings, practice swings,
Right.
serving, for example, like you talked about throwing a football. That's a great activity to do that simulates the serve. So, Serena, you talk about, she does that. I mean, she's got the greatest serve in the history of tennis. I remember Pete Sampras doing all sorts of, even when he was the number one in the world, I used to hit with him quite a bit. And in his warm up, before he would just have a practice session, he would throw a football from a seated position. Then he would throw it from a kneeling position. Then he would throw it from a standing position. And that's, throwing a ball, but it's essentially shadowing. So you can shadow with a racket. You can even do it without a racket. And again, sometimes when you get away from the sport for a little bit or away from the competition, as Olivia says, and we talked about this a lot in some of our webinars, myself and Lawrence talked about visualizing and actually thinking about it, because, the skill that these players have is not going to go anywhere. Obviously, they lost a little time in developing little aspects of it, but they may be able to develop other skills in the short time that will help them when they come back. Visualizing, shadowing, hitting against the wall, etc. Hitting volleys like this. You do that for 5 minutes straight. You get pretty tired. So these are things that I know that all these players have been doing, and I'm just excited to see them on the team and to see them come back, and hopefully get back in the courts in New York City. I'm hoping next week.
Oh, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
Joseph, you mentioned you run the stairs with your sister?
Yeah, the whole sister, brother, and Lil, all of them.
Is everybody tennis players?
Yeah, they're all at the academy. Yeah.
Oh, all right. You have the whole family. Fantastic.
Yes.
So
I'll tell you, his mom's got to bring a lot of food. Okay, when they come for the day, I mean, because she's got a lot of mouths to feed. They're running around. There's a lot of tennis balls being hit, and so she is amazing. Joseph's mom, she comes and she's got them all under control. It's amazing.
She's
right,
got
Joseph?
The snacks.
Yeah.
Hey, Joseph's always eating good. He's eating some good stuff. I see that. Yeah.
That's good. That's so important. Nutrition is one of the hardest things to get kids to do sometimes, Patrick. Nutrition. Does your team touch on that?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a big part of educating our kids. And we have to remember they're kids. So they're 12, 13, or 16 in Evan's case. But the more information we can give them, the better, whether it's about fitness, whether it's about nutrition, recovery, what to bring to Lawrence, my co-director. He's great about, how to prepare for tournaments and how to prepare for matches. And, a lot of times these kids are playing, even in the 12 and unders, they're playing matches, that go to 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. So how to manage that, not just for the kids, but for their parents as well, because, the parents are the biggest support that there is. So we supplement that and we try to help them as much as we can, but it's the parents that really do the most for these kids. So we love having them come to the academy. We try to work with them and help them as much as we help the kids.
Yeah, an important tennis parent. I mean, is key, right? I mean, we always say it. I think Serena and Venus's mother is about the best tennis mom I've ever seen. Days we see her cheer for opponents if they've hit a good shot. She's there all the time. She's a fantastic support team, and I think, and it sounds like all three of you have that as well. Patrick, on a serious note for a minute, this is fantastic that BNP Paribas sponsors this team and helps these kids. But I am wondering what this closure has done to the academy. How has it affected the academy?
Well, it's been very difficult, obviously, for the company and for Sport Time, which is a company that supports owns Randall's Island, which is a New York City park. So that's a park property of New York
Hmm.
City. So, and there's other clubs in the New York area. So it's been difficult. We've had to furlough some of the coaches, hoping that we can start bringing them back as early as next week. But certainly, it's going to be a difficult to get back in business, so to speak. And again, that's why this support from, I mean, BNP, this is even more important than ever before because, we're going to need all the help we can get as a company moving forward. Because in addition to helping these kids that are on scholarship, we also run an academy that's a for-profit company. And so try to manage both sides of that. And it's not always easy. So we try to do what we can to keep the company going and to keep the business, because without the business alive, we can't do these things that we can do for these kids and for the scholarship kids as well. So it's a real balancing act. And like a lot of other people in the world that are struggling, whether it's restaurants, businesses coming back, it'll be a transition for us coming back as well. But the other clubs are open, and there's a real thirst for people to get out and exercise and play tennis at any level, at the level of these kids, but also just at a recreational level. And tennis, as we know, is a great sport for being able to distance easily and get some exercise and get out there. So we're hoping to do it all as we come back, but it's definitely going to be a challenging time for the next, probably a couple of years.
Yeah, harsh realities for everybody. Exactly. There could be many more kids flocking to tennis. As you mentioned, I mentioned a little earlier, team sports are going to be tough. Tennis, you're on opposite sides. You don't have to touch the ball. Everybody can learn quickly how to pick the ball up with your foot and retrieve the ball that way. So if a kid, maybe a child is 13, 14 years of age and hasn't yet picked up a tennis racket, it's not too late, right? I think we're very stuck in this environment of if you didn't start by the time you were 8, you've missed the boat, and that's not true.
Well, it's never too late to pick up tennis. Okay, to play at a level that's enjoyable. Obviously, to be able to play at a level where you have a chance to be a professional is a different story, or even a high level
Right.
junior player.
Right.
But there's no doubt that you can pick up tennis at any time. That's what makes it great. A lot of people pick up tennis in their 20s, 30s, 40s because it's a sport you can play until you're older and get something really positive out of it. So for someone like me, I've only been playing tennis for about 50 years. So I'm going to be 54 in a couple of weeks. So you do the math, Chris. So, and these guys and gal here started young, and most
Mm-hmm.
players that get to a high level do that. But you're right; it's a great opportunity to get more people engaged in tennis as a sport, because if we do that,
Mm-hmm.
it just helps. It helps the game overall in every way.
Olivia, if a girlfriend of yours wanted to try tennis and maybe she's never played before, what's your pitch? How do you get her hooked?
I would say it's a fun sport, but yeah, it's still competitive. It's requires focus, but if she has focus, she can do it.
Who inspired you to get into tennis, Olivia?
My coach across the street from the park,
Mm,
because I live across the
wow.
street from a tennis. Yeah, so he did, and my mom.
And your mom.
Yeah, yeah.
How about you, Evan? Who inspired
Well,
you?
it's kind of funny because I didn't know anything about tennis. Like my family wasn't really a big tennis family. My dad watched tennis and he hit with like my stepbrother like all the time, but I didn't really know anything about tennis. I'd never even heard about it. And then one day, like I went home from school one day and it was like summer camp and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, like we're gonna take you to the U.S. Open," and I'm like, "What's the U.S. Open?" They're like, "Oh, it's tennis." I'm like, "What's tennis?" I'm like, "I don't want to go to this. I want to watch cartoons at home." I'm like 6 years old. I don't want to do this. So anyway, they take me and turns out it was the finals of the U.S. Open 2010, and it's Djokovic and Nadal playing, and
Not bad.
yeah, I've never been in like such an environment before, and I never saw people so passionate about what they did. I saw Nadal biting the trophy afterwards because that's his thing. I was like, oh my god, I could put my teeth on that trophy one day. It's like I got to play this sport now. So slowly, I started picking up tennis. Like eventually, like I finally started getting into tennis when I was 7, almost 8, because my mom was like,
Mhm.
my mom didn't wasn't really sure if I was really into it, and then finally I just took it up, and then 2 years later, I didn't play another sport. I played everything when I was a kid, and the next thing you know, when I was 9, I was only sport kid, only tennis,
Yeah,
and
there's
I
something.
spent all my free time playing. So it's pretty awesome.
It certainly is awesome, and something about seeing Nadal in person. I always say
Yeah.
TV doesn't do it justice, right? I mean, to see him play, he's absolutely savage out there. He's incredible. So, Joseph, who inspired you?
Oh, I all the credit goes to my dad. So he's been playing for a really long time. So like he really liked it. It was like his thing, you know. And so he was like, one day I'll just have a son. He'll just make me proud, you know, because he just put all faith in me, and that's what made me become who I am today, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, I'm sure he's so proud of you. So proud of you. I still can't believe listening to you. You're 12 years old. You're such a mature young man. When we talk about how far you can go in tennis, and Evan Patrick said actually before we started the online conversation that they have big plans for you. Why don't you give anyone watching a sense of some of the travel opportunities and some of the things you've seen at age 16 because of tennis?
I mean, yeah, it's pretty awesome because the USTA is actually very supportive of high level junior national players, and if you're training hard and then you play the nationals and you have some good results, the USTA will reach out, contact you, and they'll invest some time and money into your development,
Hmm.
and they end up. So I've been lucky enough that the USTA has supported me for a while now, and they've helped me out with a lot of my travels and taken me to a lot of tournaments, and I've gotten to go to ITFs when I was 13, when many players even at my level that don't play when they're 13, and I've been to, and I got the opportunity to play the biggest 14 and under international tournament called Le Petit As in France, and a tournament before in Bolton to lead up. And I've been to other places where the USTA has had collaborations with other countries like Canada and England, where we have friendly matches,
Mm.
and I've gotten to play with many kids from all over the country and develop friendships with people that if I'd never played tennis, I'd still be in my little community here in New Jersey, and I'd never branched out to New York, much less like different parts of the world. I have friends in Europe, and if like I wouldn't have dreamed of going to Europe before I was an adult without tennis, you know. So it's pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
This must sound
Well,
pretty
we're
inspiring, Olivia.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, we're very appreciative of obviously I ran player development for the USTA for a while, so I'm all for collaborating with them because they can help us in a
Mhm.
big way. And even Evan's coach that was on the road with him would call me periodically, and we would talk about Evan's game. And so to me, that's a great resource for us. Now that I'm on this side of the equation with in the, sort of the private sector and with our own academy, so I think it's great that the USDA, tries to help these top kids, and we're real happy about it. And again, the kids, tennis for me, I've been so lucky my whole life that tennis has given me so much. Obviously, given me an amazing career, not just on the court but off the court as well. But one of the things, Chris, that is I think the greatest that hopefully all of these kids will have the opportunity over time, and Evan has already had a little taste of it, which is to meet people from all over the world. and have this connection and bond, with people that I still see today when I go to Wimbledon and the U.S. Open, Australian Open, and I see these players that I played against that are from totally different backgrounds. And we all share this great game and these great experiences. And that to me is one of the most incredible parts of being in the tennis world is the fact that, I
Hmm.
can remember as a 15-year-old going to Italy and like Evan's just talking about playing in a junior tournament and getting on a bus by myself. And I even got a ticket because I didn't pay the bus ticket like I was supposed to. And I said to the police officer, I said, I don't know. I don't no capito. I didn't understand what's going on. He wanted to arrest me. Me and my buddy, we were there. He was my New York buddy. We were playing in the big tournament in Rome, and we were on our own. And so you learn
Hmm.
how to manage these situations. I talked my way out of it. I paid for the bus. It's one of those tickets you have to pay for it before you get on the bus. You don't have the
Right,
ticket.
right.
But anyway, the
Yeah.
friendships I've made and the experiences I've had has been what I remember more than anything else about my years in tennis.
Yeah, well, Patrick, of course, played collegiately and then went on to play professionally and had far more experience. But I can tell the three of you, just having played college tennis, it's very much the same thing. I sometimes will say to, it's still remaining my very good friends, teammates, right? Or my coach from college has been by my side. And I always say, I can't remember if we were any good, but I just know how much fun we had.
Right.
Our the trips to play the other schools, what those bus rides were like and how much fun you have and the camaraderie and the friendships are forever because you have these amazing shared experiences as you three will have just there at the academy. Those friendships you're making will last a long, long time. So we only have a few minutes left, Patrick, and I want to make sure we've covered everything that you want to talk about with the BNP Paribas Mac 1 team as well as the academy.
Well, I want to thank BNP Mac One and for supporting us. And this has been a tough time for everybody, for the banking world as well. So I have some friends at the bank that they're all working from home and doing their thing, but they're committed to us ongoing, moving forward, and we're very appreciative. And I also want to thank our entire team at JMTA, the coaches. You heard the players here talk about them. That means a lot that they appreciate what our coaches, our staff, our fitness people have been doing over this time. And we're all really looking forward to getting back together at the academy and as a team. And again, as I said to you in the beginning, Chris, I'm really appreciative for you. You're the ultimate pro in broadcasting, and I'm going to have to get you on my podcast too to talk about your tennis career, okay? Because I want to
No,
dig into that a little bit more.
no, it's a very shallow dig. I can tell you, it'll be very, very quick.
Well,
But
thank you for doing this,
no,
and thank you to BNP for organizing this for us.
yes, thank you. And I want to thank the three of you players. We haven't been able to discuss tennis, and I haven't been able to do interviews since Australia. Sports have been on hiatus. So you have been my tune-up event for the US Open. So, when I'm talking to the players, I'll be thinking of the three of you and how you tuned me up for this big event. So I appreciate you taking the time. As we go, let's have a parting thought from the three of you. How will you remember this time in our world? Anybody
Ladies
want to go
first,
first?
Olivia. We'll let Olivia go
Uh,
first.
yeah, I'll remember this time as a time where it stopped doing the thing that I love the most, which is playing tennis. But I still remember what I've done to help keep me intact for when I come back.
Like that.
Very good.
Evan?
Evan?
We haven't been around long enough to know the things that have happened in the past, but I've heard from many adults who told me that this is definitely one of the weirdest times that may ever happen because I've heard from people who tell me about 9/11 and how scary that was, but this is a whole different situation where the whole world is kind of shut down, and hopefully this never happens again. So I'll definitely remember this as one of the weirdest times in my life, and a time that I used it to build my different parts of myself, and try to build my game in different ways. And yeah, it's going to be weird thinking about it in the future, thinking back to this time.
Yeah,
I don't
very.
really know yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Patrick and I, we've been on this earth 50 plus years, and I don't remember such uncertainty in my life, of just not knowing what the future holds. How about you, Joseph? How are you going to remember this time in all of your dozen years on this earth?
I remember this year as an experience because it made me like good in certain lengths to like make me mentally strong, physically strong, and like to prepare if something similar like this happens in the future, which I hope not. And I really like made me discover what I could do to like keep my game intact.
I agree. It's been strange and trying times, but you've gotten through them, and I can't wait to follow the success of your team and your individual careers. And Patrick, the Academy, I wish you all the best there.
Thank you very much. And you can come visit us anytime, and I'll even give you a lesson, Chris. How about that?
I might need more than one. But I'm sure your place will be up and running and very busy by the time we all get to New York. I mean, we are all going to New York, guys. I'm sure you're excited about that. The U.S. Open. It certainly looks like this thing is a go, and ESPN's going to be there. So if by chance you're at Patrick's Academy and see some of the hubbub going on, wish us well, and we'll be wishing you well too back in your tournaments. So thank you for having me, Patrick. I think you
Thank
should
you.
bid adieu, as we say thank you to PNB Paribas as well.
I
We
said,
Are Tennis.
thank you, Chris. And thank you, Evan, Olivia, and Joseph, for doing this. We appreciate it. And can't wait to see you three back in the court and the rest of our team. And thank you again to BNP. We at the McEnroe Academy are tennis too, okay? So let's remember that. Au revoir. Merci. Bonne soirée.
Peace.
Thank you.
Uh,